when you get invited to like a party, it's kind of rude to walk up to into a conversation and just bust up in it without really sticking around for a second to kind of see what people are talking about, and then maybe evaluating what they're saying, and then interjecting your 2 cents or making a comment or whatever the case may be. And that's kind of how I see the pro-life movement. I've been in now almost, well, it's been a year since I've actually been active in the fight against abortion in my area. Because, see, I've always been pro-life, even before I was a Christian. But I never really put my feet to the pavement to do anything about it. I was just only pro-life in name only. So now that I've had a year of actually spending some time going to do some sidewalk counseling to try to minister to girls who are going to murder the child that's growing inside of their womb, and to try to proclaim to them the message of forgiveness through Christ, and seeing God do a mighty work in this area, I think that I can interject a couple of things, because I've surveyed the landscape. I've been to the party for a little while, and I've heard the conversations. One of those things that I want to say is that in 2014 in the state of Tennessee, we're going to have on our ballot an amendment to change our Constitution, our state Constitution. It's in response to a court decision called Planned Parenthood versus Sunquist that was done. And what happened when that court decision was passed, it basically said that our Constitution does not protect the unborn. It ramped up the language of our Constitution, and so it made it harder for the pro-life establishment to regulate the abortion industry in our state. So they're wringing their hands. What are we going to do about this? And we've got to get this reversed. That's the thinking, right? So in order to amend your Constitution, you see, because the deal is, if Roe versus Wade was overturned tomorrow, abortion would still be legal in the state of Tennessee. So what does the pro-life movement do? Well, they go, well, we got to amend our Constitution. We need to overturn this court decision so we can get back to neutral on our Constitution. Well, in order to do that, it takes a while. It takes a long process. You have to have a Senate joint resolution in order to even get it on the ballot. And in order, from my understanding, you have to have at least 2/3 of a majority to vote in the Senate to get that ball rolling. And as an abolitionist, because I don't call myself pro-life anymore, I'm an abolitionist. And I won't get it. You need to, if you don't know the difference between pro-life and abolitionism, you need to examine it. But here's the deal. If we had 2/3 majority to pass a Senate joint resolution in order to get this ball rolling to change our Constitution in the state, why didn't we have enough votes to impeach these tyrannical judges that gave us this decision in the first place? That's the argument. And let me tell you something. The reason why our state, our pro-life politicians, why don't you think that they would make that kind of a move? Why would they not make that kind of a political move? Because it's not politically expedient. That's political suicide to make an issue out of that. Look, their electorate is pro-life. They're going to get the votes from the pro-life movement, because we're going to vote for them when they get up there and they say that they're pro-life. And we're not going to ask them any more questions other than that. But when you start talking about impeaching judges that give us decisions that are boneheaded like that, then you're going to stir up a whole can of worms. So what we need to do as an electorate is to educate our electorate, to wake ourselves up here. And it's got to start with the body of Christ. But my friends, until we demand of our legislators to stand up for all life and to be more than just pro-life in name only, and not to go through some eight-year process of changing a perfectly good Constitution, but impeach the judicial branch, impeach those in the judicial branch who make these boneheaded decisions. We're never going to abolish abortion. You see, that's the issue. We want to abolish abortion. We don't want to regulate it. So we need to speak to the people in the pro-life movement and to say, guys, you got to hold your legislators accountable. You got to say, you are not doing your duty. And we are not going to vote for you if you don't hold all life as sacred. But we have a pro-life movement, not only in Tennessee, but in the country, that will stand up and applaud people like Rick Perry in Texas, who will pass this legislation saying that we're going to ban abortion after 20 weeks. What about those babies who are not 20 weeks along? What about them? You see, we got to wake up to this issue, my friends. And you need to start tightening down your ideology on this thing. Become an abolitionist. And then once the electorate starts changing, then we will start putting people into political office who are abolitionists. And then we can start seeing some change. Because of the way it's going to go and the way it's going to go, unless we change the way that, unless we hold our legislators accountable, we're only going to propagate and propel this whole issue of abortion for another 40 years. We want to abolish abortion. And abortion will be abolished when we stand up and demand of our leaders to be abolitionists in the way that they approach their legislation, in the way that they approach their politics. And I'm willing to give grace. Understand this. I'm willing to give grace and room to people because I know who I was. I had to think about the issue. These politicians are up there and they have a lot more on their plate than just the social issues and the social issue of abortion. They have a whole lot of other things to think about, and they're not sitting there up all day thinking about the ins and outs and all the nuances of the pro-life argument or the argument for the sanctity of life. But it's really not that hard. I mean, you hold yourself to the Bible as the final court of arbitration on this issue, and you either stand up for all life or you don't. So think about it and say, okay, when I think about it from a biblical perspective, yeah, I was wrong. I was wrong yesterday. Today I'm changing my stance, and I'm going to become an abolitionist. And I'm speaking to you listening to this video. Start with yourself and educate other people. Once our pro-life movement reforms from the inside, because there's some good folks, and there's some good Christian folks that want to do the right thing. Once we change our ideology and we start speaking to the culture, we're going to see change. And we're going to move forward in the providence of God, and we're going to rely on Him to do this, but we're going to acknowledge Him along the way, because it's, you see, here's the argument, the opposition to me. John, you're just an ideologue, man. That's a pipe dream, dude. This culture is depraved. We live in a place that we have Planned Parenthood, this big juggernaut that gets all this funding, and they're so huge, and we live in such a depraved culture, especially in Shelby County, Tennessee, with all of the unwed pregnancies and all the abortion problem, and it's just a whole issue of depravity. We've got to kind of chip away at this thing a little at a time, and just take the little wins that we can get. When was the last time, as a Christian, that you let the culture dictate to you how you're going to respond to the culture? I'm here to tell you, we need to stand up and speak to a culture based upon biblical truth, and don't compromise. That's the problem, is people are compromising. Don't compromise, my friends. That's all I have. So, comments below. Love y'all. Bye.